number of jobs that are available here in the Gulf.
I got a job. I got a job.
But is it rising fast enough? We've got a new report from the guys at Cooper Fitch. They do this conveniently every quarter, open their books, go through the numbers and have a look at the rate of job creation. We are joined by the founder and the CEO, Dr. Trefor Murphy. Lovely to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Brandy.
So let's have a look at this. Overall, the Gulf for Q2 rising at 1%. So we're going to call that roughly flat.
Yeah.
The UAE hiring growing by 4%. That is, by some way, the strongest rate in the region. And it's a little bit of a change from the last time you and I had this chat last quarter, when we were worried whether or not the rate of growth was fast enough for what we were seeing in terms of the increase of population. What has sped things up in Q2?
So I think we've, the sizable change probably in quarter two over quarter one is that we've moved from strategic visionary type hiring or longer type hiring to very much impact and delivery type hiring. So where strategies have been created and now they're actively building out teams to deliver on those, particularly in areas like AI, real estate and finance areas.
Okay, so I'm interested in how you're looking at that. So you're looking at that as we've got the strategy in place, now we need the people to implement it.
Yeah, correct.
Maybe I'm the pessimist in this room. I looked at that and wondered, does that mean we're not looking at big picture thinking, investing in the future, and we're thinking, no, we need to just make money now, hire more salespeople?
So we're probably, I think vision gets changed and strategies get changed. So there's still a little bit of that hiring, but in quarter one, we saw quite a lot of it. And now we're just seeing, okay, so we have this strategy. We want to build out an AI product that actually makes us more efficient. And now we need to start hiring the team to actually deliver upon that. So I think it's probably a natural cycle.
Okay. So we are at 4%. Mm-hmm. Saudi coming in at less than us, 2%.
Yeah.
Why so?
So look, I think there's, it's a well spoken about, documented fact that Saudi's reallocated funding to different projects that have got specific timelines around them. And I think over quarter two, we've just seen maybe a little bit of stagnation in that market, particularly around the giga and mega projects, but also in general, there's just been a bit of a quieter time. We've had 2 Eid breaks in Saudi Arabia within quarter two as well, as we've had in the UAE, but it's a slightly longer break in Saudi, obviously. So that's probably seasonally adjusted. It probably would net out some of that number, but 2% is probably pretty decent still, but certainly down on probably expectations for us.
The rest of the Gulf, though, 2% Oman, 1% Bahrain, negative growth in both Kuwait and Qatar, and as I said, coming in at 1%, so fairly flat for Q2.
Yep.
Are we seeing a bit of a slowdown, a bit of stagnation in Gulf activity in general?
Look, I think if we look at quarter two last year, we had a 4% drop in jobs created, and this year, as an average across the 6 countries, we're 1% growth. So we're slightly better. We would have had the same seasonal factors in Q2 last year, 2 Eid breaks, actually the tail end of Ramadan as well. So I think as Saudi and UAE, we are still very bullish on. I think we see a lot of activity happening. Some of the other countries, Kuwait particularly, has had very little growth or reduction in activity for a number of quarters now. But I think the 2 big economies, UAE and Saudi, are still steaming ahead.
What are you seeing, though, away from the numbers qualitatively, in terms of the amount of time it's taking companies to hire, how cautious they're being in terms of getting the right fit? I say that purely because there's, so much uncertainty at the moment. We've got a couple of really big ports. We've obviously got a lot of stuff that gets reshipped. These letters I'm looking at from the US president says, don't even try that to other countries. Is there any wait and see in this?
So I think that the recruitment cycle time, from the time you apply for a job to the time you get a job offer or start employment, has probably increased in the last 12 months by a week or two. So the average, and it was already quite significantly longer than any market that I've worked in before. So we're probably talking about an average about 10 to 12 weeks. It's probably 14, maybe even 15 weeks now as an average. So I think there's just a lot of choice in the market. With population growth, etc., there's more. It's an employer's market for sure, and there's more choice in the market. So organizations are looking to get the very best talent, and they're waiting and have time to wait to make sure that they get someone that doesn't just match the technical and soft skills, but also culturally fits in and offers that little bit of extra to the employer.
Why are we slower than other markets?
I think it's a number of factors. Some of those have changed a little bit over the last 10 years, but I think maybe we would have seen before where organizations maybe sometimes didn't know exactly what that next hire needed to look like, and sometimes the recruitment process shaped that. So they would see somebody and then that they liked, or would add something, and then they would add some more. They would say, we want more people like this candidate to make an informed decision. So
ايش عامل في بشرتك يا غيث؟
دكتورة إلها عداوة معي شيء.
كل ما تقول تصبغات تطلع عليك. يا حرام.
الحمد لله إنه في حل.
I think there's a bit of that. Also, I think in the UAE, across the Gulf, everyone does a job and a half. So it's kind of who has that interest or that capability, that lateral capability to be able to sit in and do just a little bit more than a single job. Whereas in a developed market, this is your job. That's what you do. End of story.
Why do you think we've got the scope creep?
I think because we can, or they can, organizations can. They understand that Abu Dhabi or Dubai, Riyadh are very, very popular places to move to. There's a huge influx, as you've documented earlier. But I think it's a choice. So in other markets, there is no choice. You hire an AI engineer, and that's what they do. Whereas I think we do have a little bit of choice here, and that creates flex, unfortunately, in some cases.
You mentioned there the amount that employers have to choose between the supply. Are we still seeing that influx of new talent, the move first, get a job later sort of trend that you and I have been discussing for the last year and a half or so?
I would say it's increased. Yeah, I'd say it's increased. I think the population growth and how that tracks is always a difficult number. We know it's increasing on all the measurements that we look at. I think it's just we've created an economy, an ecosystem where lots of people want to move here. There's genuine interest in coming here to recreate something. I guess and that oversupply, and it is an oversupply, or it's an incorrect supply for what's needed is probably more accurate reflection of it. So that's a challenge. Other countries, all countries have a way of controlling supply. We don't. Open market, come make it your own. So that's great and challenging at the same time.
Dr. Trefor Murphy is the CEO and founder of Cooper Fitch. Their own numbers looking at where they're placing jobs and where new jobs are being created. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Brandy.
Your ARN News.